Okay, perfect. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Well, it's afternoon in Singapore where I am. It may be good morning or evening wherever you are. So just wanted to say hi. Please say hi if you can hear me because my mic is doesn't work concurrently with my headphones. So it would be nice to get some feedback. So thank you everybody for tuning in to this Polkadot Crowdcast. Just to preface, it's kind of a non-technical. Okay, perfect. Yeah, you guys can hear me. It's a non-technical sharing from like takeaways from the business side. I want to share our experience working in the blockchain space. And I understand that usually Dan would, give a quick introduction and host a session. But today, I understand that for me, I will be my own host and my own speaker. So welcome to the show. My name is Shi Khai, and I'm from LongHash Ventures. As some of you may know, LongHash, we are an accelerator and also an investor in Polkadot. So you may see that we participated in the private round. And some of our co-founders also participated all the way since the beginning to support Polkadot. Myself, I am the Polkadot ambassador based in Singapore as well. So really excited to be sharing in our growth of the network. And hopefully with today's takeaways, we can build more effective and successful projects and businesses on Polkadot. All right, let's launch. So first, a quick introduction about LongHash Ventures. We're a global blockchain accelerator and investor building the native Web 3.0 blockchain economy. So our primary activities are running the accelerator program, which is a 12-week program. And we also invest in selected startups in these cohorts, as well as bring in our fellow investors. Our strategic partners include the Singapore government and our shareholders, Fembushi Capital, which is the first institutional investor in Ethereum, as well as Hashkey Capital, part of the Wanxiang conglomerate based in China. Where are we? Well, we accept and source projects globally, so welcome any of you to apply no matter where you're based. That being said, we do have a stronghold in Singapore since we're based here, backed by the government. We also have very strong networks, especially in Asia and Southeast Asia, given our connections here, and also in China through our shareholders and network of offices. We have partners also across Hong Kong, Korea, Japan, and all around this region. And our thesis, importantly, is the native Web 3.0 blockchain economy, which I'm sure all of you are very familiar with. We believe in the potential of blockchain unlocking true ownership of assets and rights, enabling trustless interactions between entities or even machines, and also in supporting the transition from the Web 2.0 to Web 3.0 by bringing users and data on board. Now, we have accelerated 18 companies so far. And this covers all the way from the lower level layer 1 infrastructure, so like, for example, Polkadot as an investment, all the way to the middle layer protocols and applications on top, and also transitional projects that, like I mentioned, bring users and data from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. So things like fiat crypto on-ramps, education platforms, or compliance like KYC AML solutions. In total, we have raised 11 million in funding for our startup so far. And more than 60% of the startups who come through our program actually raise VC funding. And actually, everybody gets funded in one way or another. If it's not VC, then it's some sort of grants. So some projects may not be suited for venture capital just yet, or may not be fundamentally suited for venture capital, but we help them get grants from certain protocols or other sources. Okay, this is the bulk of today's sharing. I want to keep it more like conversational, more casual. So some of these things you might already know. It may sound intuitive, and I like to just flesh it out with some examples from the startups that we have seen and the startups we have screened before on like what are some of the factors that really help you succeed, right, in the context of building a Web 3.0 company. The first thing is why you're building is far more important than what you're building. And this is part of the strategy. So why I'm personally very excited with startups is that startups take on meaningful challenges and take responsibility for these pain points in the world and decide to make them go away or decide to solve these huge challenges in the world, right? And so this is fundamentally different from, let's say, doing your 9 to 5 job. You're actively trying to solve a problem that maybe nobody else has solved before, or not in such an effective way. So when we speak to all of our founders, none of them actually say they're in it for the money. Or maybe they don't admit it. But the truth is, why you're building, if you're in it to profit, it's a really unrealistic expectation. Because firstly, you have to invest a lot of your capital. Most of our founders put in their own personal savings. They don't take out salaries, and there's a high chance of failure for any startup, let alone in the Web 3.0 space. So it's important to assess what are the core motivations behind like you creating a Web 3.0 company and you dedicating months or years of your life to make something happen. One example I can share here is T-Rex.ai, one of our renewable energy startups. So the founder CEO, he's spent 10 years in the renewable energy space. And just a personal anecdote on what he does, even when he gets coffee, he would keep his paper cup and he will hold it with him until he can walk around and find a recycling bin. Otherwise, he will just not throw it away. That's the kind of level of personal commitment to the kind of vision or direction that he wants to build, that it reflects in his daily life. So if you want to build something and you want to make it part of your life, make sure that the vision is it's completely aligned with your character and what you want to do. Another good example is, for example, Sota from Plasm. I'm not sure whether he's here today. He's actually one of our incubators. He on his website, you can see the first thing you read is why are they building this? They're trying to rebuild a digital economy where everyone belongs, where everyone has a place. And he even wrote a long blog post on why he left his previous job to build stake technologies. And even though you can say that, okay, building a scalable blockchain, which is what they do, doesn't have a direct relationship with like making more people belong or finding their place. But at least you have a certain vision on what you want to build towards, and a certain ambition and motivation that keeps you going through the toughest times. On the flip side, I once met a startup founder and was talking to him about this exact topic of motivation. And we did a simple exercise. So you can try this with yourself as well, or with your co-founders or people you may want to work with, on why you're doing something, and just doing like the 7 levels of why. Like, okay, so let's say, why are you building this project? Because I believe in blockchain. Why do you believe in blockchain? Because it's decentralized. Why do you believe in decentralization? Because X, Y, Z. Then yeah, it goes on and on. So for this guy, when I asked 3 or 4 whys until the nth degree, he came to a point where it's like, oh, okay, I built the solution because in the end, fundamentally, I want to make a fortune by creating a successful impact. I can't think of any intrinsic motivation other than actually turning a profit and making money from this. And that's literally what he said. And so that was a great red flag. And true enough, within a couple of years, he gave up on the startup, which didn't get much traction. And he went back to corporate, to enterprise, because that's a much more stable way of making money. So yes, it's not because you want to get rich quick. It's not because it's just cool. It needs to resonate with something within you. And why you're building is not limited to the motivation in your character. It's also thinking about what is the value proposition that you're bringing to the world. What is the pain point that you're solving? So when we talk about the strategy phase, it's actually much wider than that. We cover everything from the value proposition, identifying that, and then who it will benefit from that, the target market. What is the first niche that you're going to target within that market? What are channels you're going to reach those people? And then how are you going to have your business model or revenue model to make that sustainable? And then how do you price that revenue model so that it makes sense? So strategy covers all of this, and that's part of our accelerating process. But it's important to start with this first point. As for a more practical tool, maybe the first step to validate your idea and on a more practical basis, I would recommend you look at the MOM test. Maybe many of you are familiar with it. So many of us, when we have an idea, the idea is we go out and we pitch it. We say that, hey, I built this really cool thing, or I have this really cool idea. What do you think? They'll be like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, sure, I'll support you. I'll use your product. But that actually does not do a good job in validating whether it's a suitable solution, effective solution, and whether people will use it or pay for it before you build it. So before you go ahead and lock yourself up and build something and spend months on it and spend a fortune on it, commit your life to it, first test out the pain points, right? Validate the pain points of your target users or target customers. Ask about their past behavior. How did they try to solve this problem in the past? How much did they pay? How much did they spend? How much time did they use? Exactly. Yeah, Alex. Yeah. How much time did they spend or use to actually solve this problem? Do they already have a makeshift solution? So if this is this even a big enough problem that they will actually use a new solution or pay for something new? So so don't start with pitching your idea. Start with validating the pain points, the current behavior of your users and customers. And then at the end, when you want to review your solution, do it with commitment. Make sure that they commit a certain amount. Maybe they buy your product in a pre-sale, or maybe they sign up for your product demo. So they maybe either commit time or money or social reputation by sharing about your product on social media, for example. So the first step is to really have good user interviews and then be able to work through your strategy from there. Next, we'll go to the second phase or the second element, which is go to market. So now that you have a clear strategy, clear value proposition, you're motivated, you're going to commit to this. Go to market is what makes it real, especially in the Web 3.0 space, where it's to be honest, niche, not yet fully mature. Lots of people don't understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. So it's all the more important to prove these haters wrong or prove the doubts wrong with numbers, with real adoption and users. Example I can give here is one of our startups. It's called Zanpool, and they build a fiat crypto on-ramp. And you would think that, oh, okay, there's so many exchanges out there. There's so many fiat crypto on-ramps already. The space is rather crowded. Why do you want to build another one? But they had a clear strategy. They knew where exactly in the value chain they came in, and they knew they could provide a much better user experience, and they've already validated that. So they went ahead and built it and launched it, and they grew super rapidly with users, engagement, volume coming in, and now they've expanded to multiple markets and raised multiple rounds of funding. They're one of the most successful examples of the startups that have gone through our program. Of course, along the way, we supported them with introductions to various protocols, raising their profile with marketing and fundraising as well. So the most important thing is once you have a clear strategy, just go ahead and do it and make sure you get the numbers to prove that you were validating it properly and it can actually work. The second important thing to keep note is you need to make money from the get-go. Now, I know, we don't want to contradict ourselves. Just now I said, don't be in it for the money. Now I say, you got to make money from the get-go. But it's not about that being the goal. It's about this being the means to get to where you want to reach, right? Because every project still needs to be sustainable. So you need to have some sort of revenue or some kind of way to sustain the team so that you can get to your goal, so they can solve the pain point that you have taken on. Now, some of your projects may be more futuristic, so it may not be fully applicable right now, but it is still possible to make revenue with a futuristic idea. A couple of examples I can give here. So we talked about Plasm before, where they're building a plasma parachain on Substrate. Now, before they have their public parachain online, they started doing consulting projects for enterprises or education projects. where these companies have a certain like use case in mind. They want to learn about blockchain and they want to implement a pilot, and this keeps them going. This gives them a sustainable revenue stream. Or another one of our projects, Alpha Wallet, who's also been invested by Fumbushi Capital and all, they're building a tokenization standard called TokenScript. And that will take some time before it goes mainstream. But in the meantime, they worked on pilots, right? Tokenizing the FIFA World Cup tickets, UEFA World Cup tickets. And then now they signed a recurring deal with Bartercard, the largest B2B platform in Australia. So that gives them recurring monthly annual revenue that will keep them going as they build towards their vision. And this doesn't have to detract from your long-term vision as well. Whatever customers, whatever connections and revenue you bring in can eventually fit into your long-term goals. Maybe on a technical level, they can integrate into your mainnet when it launches. Branding-wise, it's definitely synergistic by raising your profile. And of course, the revenue keeps you growing so that you can continue building towards your end goal. Of course, the best case is that if your solution is immediately applicable and immediately revenue generating, something like 8tech, another one of our startups, who make the remittances and donations much more transparent. So they work with government stakeholders like or nonprofits like the Irish Red Cross or United Nations, UNDP, the Asian Development Bank, and they help trace those donations and provide self-sovereign identities to the recipients in Africa. And so they've done this for 90,000 people. And because they are able to help them save costs, save time, and reduce or eliminate the leakages along the way when you transmit these funds, the entities are willing to pay to use their solution. So they get to make money while growing their business and achieving their vision. And this is how most startups actually should and can operate. The third one is Alex, I see your question. Let me come to that later. So the third one is a question of timing, or rather circumstance on how you go to market. Here I have included these 6 words, which is actually a Chinese analogy. Spoken in Chinese, it's 天时地利人和. The first 2 words, 天时, 天 is like the sky or the heavens. And the 天时 is talking about timing. So here's where the analogy talks about maybe market regulations, macroeconomic trends on whether we're the boom or bust cycle. So maybe now COVID is one of the mega trends that's happening. Urbanization, aging population. These are what we're talking about. Make sure you fit into the right timing of the entire world. The second thing is 地利, which talks about the right geography, the right soil that's fertile enough to make sure that you succeed. So here, maybe you're targeting a fast-growing market, a fertile market, people who are willing to pay, people who really need the solution or understand your solution. And the third part is 人和, which is people, kind of the right people. So kind of right timing, right place, and right people. So you have to make sure you have the right assets, you have built the right things, you have the right team, you have the right stakeholders and partners in place to deliver what you want to deliver. An example of this is one of our startups called Brighttree. So they actually make the marine refueling digitizable and also automate the whole data transfer to remove any potential fraud or pilferage from the oil sector and the marine sector. So when they actually existed for quite a few years before they joined us, but we decided to take them in because the timing was right. Regulations had just made it such that it's mandatory to digitize all of the refueling data and mandate that ships are able to verify that they're using low sulfur fuel. And so this authentication step clearly requires a blockchain solution. And so the regulations were there supporting them. They were in Singapore and have already established reputation here. And Singapore happened to be one of the largest markets for bunkering or marine bunkering. And thirdly, for 人和, they are recognized by some of the marine giants, Emerson, and also the Marine Port Authority of Singapore. So they have the backers of the government and as well as the industry giants, and they have the solution to deliver. So when all these 3 solutions come together, all these 3 factors come together, it provides the right timing that their time has come to succeed in this particular market. So here I'd like to just include a kind of personal anecdote where I like to quote a famous practitioner, Bruce Lee. He says, "Be like water, my friend." And he's talking about martial arts, but actually it's also applicable to business, because we have to go to where the users are, go to where the revenue is, go to where the market and community is responding. So building a Web 3.0 solution is not just like a one-way game where you're just building it in ourselves. We need to respond to where the gaps are that you can flow in and fill that void, and you are able to spread out very effectively. So that's go to market. The third aspect, which I think is the primary focus of most startups, they're like, okay, how do I raise funds to make it succeed? But actually, the first two steps, having a right strategy and also going to market, sets the foundation for successful fundraising. And here's where I like to invite you to try out the shoes of an investor. Think like how an investor would think. So, okay, but how would an investor think, right? So here's where I can share some perspective. In general, we see two kinds of investors. One is a more financial focused investor. They're looking at the ROI, right? If I pump this much money in you, how fast are you going to grow? How big are you going to grow? And how quickly can you get there? And what's going to be my return? Can I exit in how many years and how many fold is that? So they're going to be optimizing for those. And you have to make sure that you've prepared the numbers to justify that. The other type of investor is going to be a strategic investor. So these may be ecosystem funds or like really blockchain pioneers, like our backers from Bushi Capital. So they were the like first guys in Ethereum. So like they're ready to just invest in anything that can help the infrastructure and the ecosystem grow. But increasingly, there's no one or the other. Everybody lies somewhere along the spectrum. So we have to kind of balance or fulfill both of these criteria on like good strategic value, and also have a strong vision, and also like financial returns, how you're able to like grow and capture that value. Now that you know what investors are looking out for, firstly, you need to catch their attention. And the way to do that is to be able to very effectively explain your startup in one sentence. There's a formula that we use to help our startups create this one-liner. And it's typically, who are you targeting? What benefits do you bring them? And how do you do that? Who are you targeting? What benefits do they get? And how do you do that? So for example, instead of saying I'm building a decentralized content acceleration network, which investors go, oh, okay. You want to say, we help users monetize underutilized bandwidth and storage from your Wi-Fi and mobile device. And it becomes much clearer, like, who are your targets, what do they help them do, and how do you do it? Or for example, instead of like with the renewable energy marketplace, you don't want to say decentralized, we're building a decentralized renewable energy certificates marketplace. You can say, we help households go green and save money on energy within a few clicks. Or for example, the marine bunkering one, where you might say, oh, we are building an IoT combined with blockchain solution for the marine bunkering industry. Instead, you want to say, we help ships prevent billions of dollars worth of bunker oil pilferage by digitizing and automating the data collection process. And the last example I want to give is, for example, let's say Plasm, which Sota is building. Instead of saying we're building a plasma blockchain on Substrate, and maybe investors want to hear that we enable developers to launch a high-speed custom blockchain within minutes. So the idea is to focus on the value proposition and how big this idea can be to catch their attention. Now, once you catch their attention, next, you need to speak their language. Engage them on the points they're looking for. Each investor always has a checklist that they're looking for in due diligence. So of course, I'm giving so much shout out to Plasm. So the second thing, you have to speak in the language that they are looking for. There's a set rule book that many of you may be familiar with. It's the whole like Silicon Valley pitch flow, right? What is your problem, solution, what's your differentiator or advantage? How big's the market? What's your business model? How big have you grown? So what's the traction? How are you going to scale further? And then why is your team the right people to do it? And how much funds do you need to get there? So all this is this entire process what we work with all of our startups as well. Now, lastly, you know how the investors think, you got their attention, you managed to get the meeting, and you hit all the points. Now, to close the deal, we need to be bold and persistent. How many of you, have scheduled a meeting with investors? You show your idea, and the investors said, "Oh yeah, this sounds great." You go ahead and you pitch the idea, you run through your deck. They're like, "Oh, sounds good," and you'll be like, you answer their questions, and after the meeting, you're like, "Okay, great. I will send you my deck after the meeting, and let's keep in touch." Sounds like a fantastic meeting? No, that's absolutely terrible. That's because there wasn't a next step. In every investor meeting, you have to make sure that you're moving along the funnel to closing the investment. You have to figure out what's the process for decision making, who is the decision maker, and what are the steps to get there. Right? Maybe you need to pass the due diligence process, and then after that, you might get a verbal commitment, a term sheet, negotiate the deals, and then you pass. You need to know how often their investment committee is, who sits on the committee, and maybe you want to speak to somebody who can bring that idea on there. And you also want to be able to set a clear timeline to say that, okay, I'm speaking to 20 investors right now who are interested, and I'm looking to close the deal within this month. And in order to do that, I need you to give your commitment by this date so that we can proceed with the negotiation or contract signing, and I'll close the round by then. You can't appear that you are, just looking for investment desperately with anyone. You need to have that traction, and then be in a good negotiating position to push for commitments and close the deal. Now, all these 3 points, or these 3 phases, strategy, go-to-market, and fundraising, are exactly what we help startups with in our 12-week accelerator program called LongHash Hatch. And well, yeah, you can also speak to Sota about how the experience is. Just now, I was sharing a lot of these like anecdotal or more practical tips. In this program, we make sure to even tailor it even further and make the necessary introductions to make it happen. As many of you may know already, the terms in general, we don't guarantee an upfront investment, but that also means that there's no upfront tokens or equity taken. You're coming for free, but if you succeed, then we'll share in your upside. And we do invest opportunistically ourselves as well and bring in our partners and investors. So if any of you are looking to apply, the applications are actually open right now for our 4th batch and until 17th April. So you can go to longhashventures.com and take a look there. And before that as well, currently, given this whole situation, COVID-19, I understand lots of people are affected. Myself, I'm locked down in Singapore, where we're not able to have any private or public gatherings. So we're organizing a virtual hackathon for people who want to build something to help with COVID-19. There are cash prizes up for grabs, up to $1,500 for the first prize. So be sure to hand in your application as well. This will be open until 26th of April. So do click the link or go to longhashventures.com/hack. This is supported by some of our government stakeholders like Enterprise Singapore, our private enterprise backers like Hashkey, as well as McKinsey & Company, and One Connect, which is part of Ping An Group, institutions like INSEAD and SUSS, communities like Singapore FinTech Association, BEST, and Singapore Blockchain Association. So would love to engage all of your help to come and build something that's impactful right now. Okay, I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. I would like to take your questions right now. I hope it was, really practical in the lessons and examples. I will first look at the. Okay, Alex, you mentioned about making money from donations. Well, I think it depends on certain organizations, right? I mean, not everybody is building a non-profit organization. I think as long as we are clear on whether you are for profit or non-profit, and explain that properly, it's totally okay to be making money from something that's justifiable. If you're building something of value, then for sure it can be for profit. I mean, the same can be said of anything, right? Any service that you're providing. It's just we don't want to be predatory in our pricing, and we also don't want to be predatory in let's say, our competitive positioning. But I do think it's important to be rewarded if you are creating value. And more startups need to actually be bolder, I think, especially in Web 3.0, to make that claim, right? Like, we are building something valuable, please reward us as well. Okay. Any particular industries that LongHash looks at in particular, and anything that stands out in terms of compatibility with blockchain? So Web 3.0 is still at a very early stage. So we're open to kind of like anything that can really demonstrate value. But what we're looking for are solutions that are immediately applicable today. So even if it's infrastructure that's needed today, applications that are needed today, and even like transitional projects that can bring users on today, right? That's where we talk about the timing. Certain industries are more promising than others in our perspective. For example, say in the financial sector, in supply chain, and let's say, yeah. So I think mainly the fintech sector is one of the major directions we're looking at. DeFi or open finance is a particular area of focus for us this year. So if you're building something in this space, we'd love to speak to you. Please send your information to us. But really, yeah, apart from financial sector, energy sector, supply chain, or anything else, that infrastructure that relates to Web 3.0, I mean, you are the experts in your own field. Like, you know what solutions are needed in this world. So we love to hear what your ideas are, and as long as it can be validated, we can support you on this journey. Hello, Avive as well. Hey guys, lots of chats and messages. Any other questions? Well, I grab a sip of water. So now we've run for 32 minutes now. So Carol Ann, if there are no more questions, I'm happy to end it here. But right before we end, just want to once again thank all of you for joining us today. I hope this has been helpful. And if you want to speak to me or anybody from the team privately on any of these points, or you'd like to engage our support for you to make Web 3.0 real, or make Web 3.0 happen by actually successfully building a company, please come talk to us, and please visit longhashventures.com. No worries, Avive, I hope you can also check out the recording if you're watching. Thank you very much for watching till the end. Oh, okay, there's one that came through. Sota. Does coronavirus accelerate Web 3.0? I think, okay, so this, my personal answer is a resounding yes. Because I think the major catalyst is the movement towards more digital solutions for remote working, and also for more local or decentralized solutions as during this isolation period. So anything that's fundamentally digital makes it easier. It's one step closer to Web 3.0. If it was originally, people were working in person, now they're working remotely. Or originally they were sending emails and messages and have to do like physical banking. Now they're doing digital banking, digital payments, digital ways of communication. It brings us one step closer to Web 3.0. So definitely, I agree that it accelerates the path towards Web 3.0, but it won't happen by itself. We have to be out there and engaging the users and using this timing to be building and getting adoption for the solutions which are applicable right now, so that when we are past this phase, these solutions will already be starting to be embedded in the mainstream. All right. All right, if there are no more questions, hope you have a very good day. And for those of you celebrating Good Friday, hope you have a good celebration and have a great day ahead. Stay safe, wear your masks. Let's keep building.